Hey folks, welcome back to Films Presents RC on YouTube. Paddy with you here again. We're just checking out the how-to video. So this is basically how to film RC cars, subtopic editing part 2. Now we're just seeing here that I'm editing the video. This is a voiceover, by the way, after the fact, if you're wondering why things aren't slightly in time. This is a slightly sped up version. So what I've done here is I've got my video clips arranged and all stabilized with digital image stabilization already. And you'll see that I've started to load in clips here. This is my introduction that I'm building at the moment. And you can see that we're just using the sweeping, because I only took 2 shots for intro today. So basically it was the 2 draws, I think. This one is from a side angle, so here you see we're clipping to the part that we need. We want to draw down. We stop it there, trim, get rid of that other bit we don't need, move on to our second part of our intro. Now this was filmed in portrait, so this is going to need spinning over, rotating to the right. You see in the preview here it's still portrait, but when you play it'll in the preview it's portrait, but when you play here, so we can trim that there, because that's about all we need for this one. You see we lengthen it out there because our transitions, where we put our transitions in here, they do eat into the clips on either side. So when we trim, we add on a little bit at either end of that trim. So for instance here, you can see my gloves starting to appear on the screen. So that's where I want to trim and get rid of that. But then what we will want to do is slightly elongate that in a moment. I'm just sort of trimming clips at the moment to get things in order. So this is a trailer test video basically. And what we were doing was I just went out and took one 5-minute long section of videos, like a 4-minute 35 seconds I think, of one continuous solid clip. So when you do that, you will obviously want to split it into various sections. So here you can see we don't want this footage that we're currently previewing on the screen at the moment. We want it trimmed like that. You see it's still a bit wobbly there on the shake off, so we have room to trim this further in. You want to keep it at a bare minimum. So where I try and start is where there's a good section of movement, and then what I'll go and do afterwards is add in some transitions that are quite sympathetic to that sort of movement. So if the screen's panning to the left, then I'll put an acceleration to the left transition. Now this seems like a decent place to stop. We'll obviously trim. Now this video about editing this little clip basically is to show how you can create a little storyboard style video from just one video clip in essence. Obviously I have got the 2 intro draws with a slight pan on there as well, but in essence this is just one long video clip that's been shrunk down into bite-sized pieces, if you will, to tell a story. So what you will notice as well is that go back and review your footage. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming, I'm going back and looking, I'm trimming and going back and looking. So that there will be a great point to end. Obviously we slightly overlap there, and you can see, I don't know if you can see at the start of this second clip, what we're trying to crop out is abrupt changes. When we do digital image stabilization, we can see that if we go back, there you go, there was a sharp focus change and a speed change in camera, so we can crop that out. Probably crop a little bit more out in a second, to be honest with you. Yes, because that clip wasn't long enough, so what we will do is skip past that. That is no good for footage. Ooh, there's a bit. So we can go back. Once we spot a bit in our one long continuous clip, we can go back, say, right, roughly there is where we want to start this from. So we trim. Make sure you're highlighting the right bit that you want to delete. So in the previous clip to this, we were going up the hill. So if you notice, when we're going up the hill, when we put this one afterwards, obviously I had to stop filming, stop the car, walk up the hill, and then film this scene separately. But what we want it to play out like is that the car's going up the hill and it carries on continuously, and we were in a different position, like a different camera position filming it. Yeah, so that will become quite clear at the end when we run through the video as a whole. See, I didn't like this section because the car's sort of leaning to one side too much. Very rough terrain today. The ground was frozen, so we skip all that stuff out. We don't want any of that stuff because it doesn't look that nice. Trim that up again. Go back, and what you will find is this one here is coming back down the hill. If you notice, we're on a slightly downward gradient now. And then the draw starts here, so we can keep all this clip in. Like I say, it'll just give you a basic idea of how to edit one long continuous clip into something that's a short video in essence. It's not going to be a long video. Well, it depends, you know, if you had a 20-minute long clip, I'm sure you could make a much longer video. But in essence, I was just out for a very short amount of time today. See, we don't want that because I've caught my lovely partner in there. So we can skip all that out. I don't think this is any good as well, the auto. Yeah, see the digital image stabilization on my shoes as well. Nobody wants to see my shoes. Digital image stabilization can be a little bit quirky sometimes. It can skew the image. So this would be a good shot to capture as well. I can see that already. So go back to where I want it to start from. Get rid of the bit before it in between that we didn't need. It's useless footage. And we just basically do the same thing. It's rinse and repeat. We're segmenting, finding out where we want to trim and crop. That seems like a good point, yeah, there to sort of trim. We don't know what's after that, so let's keep on watching. Nobody wants to see a car go past and some legs in the shot, no matter how good those legs look. Right, so we found our mudding bit here. I say mudding, this is just basically as I was coming out. I basically ran it up 50 meters and ran it back down, and this is the footage that you're seeing, is this 1 5-minute long clip. I do get stuck in the mud here, but I'll show you in a second. You can even edit this out to make it look like you made it through. I mean, that's really of no concern to me, to be honest with you, but it's for continuity's sake for this short video. You can see I do get bogged down, but with editing and cropping and trimming, you can pretty much make anything look like you want it to. So when I say storyboard video, I mean that there's for instance, if you've ever watched Holly Hills, Derek, good friend of mine, hello mate, he makes storyboard style films quite a lot. So he will, there's continuity to each segment, so it follows on from the last one. It isn't like he's up a mountain 1 minute and then he's in sort of the middle of the forest or the mud at another point. There's a point, so it's almost like it's the car's on a trail and you've placed cams at various points along the trail to capture that. So that's what I would call a storyboard. It follows a plot, it follows a storyline, if you will. So Derek does a lot of stuff like that. I will leave a link to Derek's channel actually in the description, so you can sort of gauge what I'm on about. I tend to do sort of more random clips, but I do storyboard stuff every now and again. But this is it basically. This is the end of our footage here. We need to trim off that end. Right, so we've done our trims. We've basically got our footage. We've got just over 2 minutes, 2 minutes 12 seconds we've got, and that's from 1 5-minute clip. Now, to be honest with you, that's reaching a little there, but usually I would do much shorter segments than that to keep the engagement up. But let's stick with what we've got for now. So this is our intro clip. So I don't like this as much as the second intro clip. So here is where we will cover slightly with our intro graphics. So you go into your clip graphics here. You see, obviously, like we said, we've got lots of different ones to choose from. This one will do a cinematic intro. And it's going to be a monochrome cinematic intro, so you obviously want to type your whatever you're putting in there, channel name and stuff, pick your font. And this one will be going in from the beginning. We won't be doing any indenting for the clip graphics on this. It will run from one side of the first clip to the other side, like this. I will add a title effect in here in a moment, and we come to our first transition. Now, transition wise, we're going from a black and white to a colour. So two things you can do here. I mean, sketch fades, they don't really work because it's monochrome to monochrome. I'll show you now. See, it just looks messy. Monochrome to, we're using a monochrome transition as well. What you want to do is basically use something like a glitch, something that combines colour and monochrome in one, so it gives a fuzzed outlook to it, if you will. Something like that, so the colour change is less abrupt. You've introduced colour in the transition, but the transition itself also features monochrome tones as well. Now, the other thing you can do is you can colour grade your other pick, your second intro clip, should I say, so it's not as abrupt colour wise. If you see, we've muted the tones there of the second clip, so it's got like a sepia sort of hue to it. But we've gone for a VHS adjuster, a VHS fade again on here to keep it in keeping continuity for the first two clips, seeing as we're still in our intro. The end of the second clip there at about 20 seconds is the end of our intro. We'll also be wanting to add in our text now to tell people what the title of the video is, which in this case is a trailer test. Obviously yours will be different, unless you're also driving a Hummer ATK and testing a trailer, which will be a crazy coincidence, but there we go. Also, that's this one, we go for any random font. This is just basically a quick sort of how to, like I said before in the past, I basically just provide you with the tools. You can spend hours editing a video if you wanted to, and layers upon layers, so you layer up your video on layer on layer. You know, the sky's the limit really. And don't forget, I'm doing this off an Android phone as well, so I am fairly limited to what I can implement. As you saw in our first one, we can play about with the shadows and outlines and blends and glows and stuff like that, and general opacity of the title itself. We'll do a small outline here. We'll tie it in with the red colour of the other title. You see the other title above it is a red hue. We'll just take the opacity down a little bit. Let's see how that plays out. Yeah, I'm happy with that for a first go. See, and then it blends in quite nicely. You've got a nice draw there with the camera on a huge finish. Now, ignore that slightly glitch there. When it renders, it won't glitch like that. It won't hang. I noticed it dropped a few frames there throughout, but it won't do that. What I do notice is, like I said, these transitions, they do eat into the clip at either side, so you can afford to sort of lengthen the clips. If you think that, I didn't quite catch everything in there, I can sort of drag that out a bit. Even though you notice my gloves in the shot there quite heavily, you won't see that because the transition starts early and you lose some of that, see. So this doesn't need colour grading, this is okay. So it's filmed on a bit of a dull winter's day, this actually, but sort of colour wise it's not too bad. So what I will do for the rest of them, as soon as we're out the intro now, is I will stick to one or two types. Probably acceleration, so a frame shift to the side, or a zoom in frame shift. So I've moved off glitch ones that, because I had two glitches for our intro, I'll now stick to frame shifts all the way through now. So either a frame shift like thus, and the reason I did that as well is because the camera pan to the was panning to the left, so the frame also shifted to the left to give a bit of continuity. Now these are good type of scenes to film. I've noticed a lot of the lads choose to film like that, especially some of the Asian people that I follow, Kwon Yu Gon and stuff like that, and SE They do quite a lot of sort of follow me from the side shots where they match the speed of the crawler. Has to be shot right though. It can be slightly tricky to shoot actually, but they usually use an upside down gimbal. So they'll get a gimbal, a 3-axis, 4-axis gimbal, and they'll put it upside down on a selfie stick. And if you've got a DJI, you'll notice that they've got inverted mode on there, so you can do some follow me. This was actually filmed by hand today. I was just had the phone in my hand and then stabilised it with digital stabilisation afterwards, as opposed to a mechanical or electrical stabilisation. So here, as you can see, I'm doing frame shifts again. Don't really like the zoom ins ones, but they're all frame shifts basically, just to keep some continuity on there. Drag the time down a bit so they're don't take too long. Oh, I think yeah, so coming back down now. Basically, like I said, you can carry on and do as much as you want really. You can layer on other videos over the top. Opaque layers, watermarks, graphics, effects. Mirror effects are quite good if you're doing intros. They're quite good for intros, and warp effects and stuff like that. And what I will show you as well is there's a video coming out. I did the thumbnail for this, and I'll just show you a quick one how to create a thumbnail for your RC video using Photoshop Express. That is really quick. That takes all of about 5 to 6 minutes to create that if you're taking your time on there. But you must have good pictures to start with. Anyway, back to the video. You can see that we've sorted out our transitions and our trims. So each time you put a transition in, you'll want to go either side of that transition clip, and just make sure that you've not left anything in that you don't want to leave in, or that you've not put a transition in that takes 2 seconds and you've actually you've actually accidentally inadvertently trimmed your footage at either side of that transition, because it will do that. See, there about was the perfect one to come in and out of, so we can't see anything that we didn't want to see either side of that transition. Now this one will need trimming down a little, I suspect. And here, as I was saying, at the end of here you'll notice the wheel stop. Now you don't want that in your video if you want to keep sort of continuity. You want to always cut to a rolling shot, and by that I mean that the car must always be rolling when you cut to your next shot. So obviously when you're shooting that, you will press record far before you set off, but obviously then you trim either side of that. So there you see we just caught the wheel stopping, but it looks like what we've done is we've edited out the wheat from the chaff, and we've sort of see, those clips are very similar, so I guess I could lose that one before it actually, seeing as it's very similar in footage style. And we'll drag that one back a bit, and what we'll get is footage that looks like we climbed out, sort of thing. And like I say, you know, not that I'm bothered about that, I'm bothered about seeing people get stuck, but it does make for a good flow for a video if you don't show being stuck in the mud for sort of 10 minutes in a row. Right, so we've done all our clips, we've trimmed, we've cropped, we've got our transitions, we've trimmed and cropped our fine tuning after we've put our transitions in, after we've trimmed and cropped our main videos. Now we're just going to put a little outro video on here. Always good to put a little thank you on the end. I always try and put a little thank you on the end of most of my videos. I must admit I did stop for a while, but this is super easy again. You just trim to where you want it to. So I filmed this a couple of times, sort of panning through just to get a good stable one. This is just where I parked up this, basically, on the way home. This is just on the way home from Exmouth today in Devon. Right, so we've got where we want to be. Trimming from that side. Trimming from that side. Right, so we can see that's starting to move there. And put our transition in, so before we forget, just put a simple frame shift in there. Like I say, you can use zoom ins, but I don't really like them, to be honest. I try to stick to frame shifts, sort of like left, right, up or down, and not zoom in. If I do a zoom in, I usually use a fade style transition as opposed to a shift. Yeah, much better, you see. And you notice how that shifted to the right and we're already panning to the right. It gives good continuity. So we just put our clip graphics in here now, just some simple graphics, which is a basic slide, a 2-line slide, and you can change the font on either of these. So let's just do a thanks for watching on this. We'll make that red. That ties in nicely with our intro, doesn't it? That was a red and a white. Now here I actually made a slight spelling mistake. You need to put tune is again, but it's obviously, you can imagine what it's supposed to say, tune in again soon. I was kind of rushing at this point. As usual, I was doing this while I was actually cooking the tea. I'm actually recording this voiceover at a later date, slightly over it, so a couple of hours afterwards. So we're going to indent our clip graphics there. Let's see how that looks. We get our shift clean, and then our title comes in and out, so we can enjoy the view. And that's that. So then obviously you'll want to go back and you'll want to stick your audio on. Right, so we're just going to add our audio clip onto here now, our soundtrack. I did actually cover this in how to make an intro, so how to film RC cars. Part 3, subtopic part 1 was how to edit your own intro. I did actually put some music in there. We're just going to put some Cassie's Dead. There's a slight, if you notice on the thingy, you can see in the background it gives you an equalizer on the green strip itself. So you can tell when there's a quiet spot because the equalizer goes flat. So we just trim that off. And we want to do a fade in so that it's not too stark of a contrast when we come in. Obviously you won't hear this now, but if you, I'll leave a link to the actual video so you can see how it looks at the end. But this is it in full. Obviously this edit here is pre-render. You can never quite tell because when it renders, it sorts out the transitions and stuff, so there's no frame drops or frame lag. Here we're just taking all the volume out. Now usually I'll leave this in at about 26%, unless I'm filming a nitro or a petrol or something, where I'll tend to then have it entirely with the soundtrack of the natural sound and no soundtrack to it at all, sort of added in afterwards. So we're just going to render this now. I want it rendered in 4K, obviously at 30 frames per second, which will be 1.8 gig at 120 MPS bitrate. So that's going